spectacular and august body of distinguished panelists, scholars, and political strategists who will dive more deeply into these issues. But we must go forward from this conference inspired and motivated to show up and show out in this year's election.
Right.
So before we get to our esteemed moderator, activist, and educator, Dr. Lamont Hill, the foundation has a brief video we'd like to share.
Catherine Hutchins Clark, and this is my mother, Laureen Hutchins. My mother is 92, and this is the story of all the trials that she had to go through in order to get a photo ID in order to vote in the state of Wisconsin.
When this act was passed about the vote ID, I said, vote ID, what is that? I got everything, so I don't have to worry about, oh, I got a Wisconsin ID, I got my social security number, I got my driver's license, so that's all I need. So then, when my daughter tells me about all that she, had to go through, it was shocking to me.
Now, she's been voting for at least 60 years in the state of Wisconsin. She's even been a poll worker in the state of Wisconsin. So it was very, very upsetting to her and to me to find out after all this time and all these times she's been voting that now she has to have something extra in order to go and do what she's been doing before. We began our journey in terms of getting the photo ID right after Thanksgiving of 2011. And so my mother and I were conducting business, and we decided to go up to the DMV and get our photo ID for her. So we got there, and then to our shock discovered they wouldn't give her one. Now, my mother had an expired driver's license, but they said that wasn't good because it was too old. She had a photo ID from the Milwaukee County Department of Aging that that wouldn't work either. So the only way she could get a photo ID for the state of Wisconsin was to have a certified birth certificate from the state of Mississippi where she was born. Now, as soon as they told me, I knew it was going to be a problem because I had tried to get a certified birth certificate from the state of Mississippi a few years prior to that. And it cost me $2,000 in order to get a corrected certified birth certificate. There were so many errors on the birth certificate that they told me that I would have to go to court and I would have to hire an attorney in the state of Mississippi in order to do that. So with attorney fees and court costs, it was $2,000.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our moderator, CNN commentator, host of Our World Black Enterprise, and Columbia Professor of Education, Dr. Lamont Hill.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our discussion on post-racial America. Y'all ain't heard? No, seriously, this is an important conversation we're going to have today about voter discrimination, about voter ID laws, and how it constitutes really the new form, 21st century form of racial discrimination. There's a lot of conversation going on right now about what these voter IDs mean. The Republicans say it means one thing, Democrats say it means another. I think they want me to be nonpartisan and objective, and I will when the panel comes out. But before they come out, while they're getting their makeup on, I'm going to tell y'all something. This is not anything to be objective about. This is a clear case of racial discrimination. What's going on right now is important. You see, because this election will be decided by these types of issues. Republicans don't win by genius. They don't win because they make a compelling argument. Republicans don't win because they convince the people that their plan, at least for the 47% of us, is good, right? What they do is they win by the margin of poor people that don't vote. They win by the margin of brown people that don't vote. They win by the margin of black people that do not vote. And even though in 2008 Barack Obama was able to register a whole new generation of voters, he was able to galvanize a whole new wave of people who will enter the polls and make different decisions about their future, about education, about health care. Even though all of that happened, they have managed somehow to convince us that for the sake of preventing voter fraud, they need to restrict our access to the polls. Now they tell us that it's voter fraud. You know what the odds are of voter fraud occurring? Was it like 1 in like a trillion? It's so crazy. You have a better chance of being struck by lightning in front of a house that you won on Publishers Clearinghouse. I mean, the odds are so slim, and yet they convince us of that. And so what we have to do today is have a conversation. We have to have an analysis. We have to have an action plan. And so what we're going to do is all three of those things. We're going to talk about the issues. We're going to talk about where this comes from, because this is not new. And then we're going to talk about what to do between now and November so that we do not lose this election. We can lose an election, but we can never lose the vote. I'm going to say that again. We can lose an election, but we can never lose the vote, because the vote is a reflection of our citizenship. The vote is a signpost of how far we have come as a nation. The vote was co-signed in the 1965 Voting Rights Act was something that was co-signed in ink. It was written in the blood of our grandmothers and our grandfathers and our great-grandmothers and our great-grandfathers and all the black folks since we've been in America who have struggled to make us full human beings. And even if the world is not fully convinced of that fact, I am. You are. We are. And so we're going to have a group of people here who are of all political parties, different generations, different ideas, who are all committed to protecting our interests, protecting our vote, and protecting our country. Now, before I introduce the panel, I'd also like to thank the Service Employees International Union. Please give them a round of applause. They are our sponsor. Particularly, I want to thank Valerie Long, who is the International Executive Vice President. I'd also like to thank Jerry Hudson, who is the Vice President, Executive Vice President. They both sponsored the town hall, and for 90 years, the SEIU has been committed to building a fair economy, providing workers a voice on the job, fighting for equality, ensuring that all working people live with dignity. At a moment where unions are under attack, at a moment where workers' rights are under attack, it is so important for organizations like this to exist. So get in one more round of applause, please. I know y'all didn't come to hear me talk, so it's now time for me to bring on the panel. First up is Representative Marcia Fudge. There you go. Ohio giving shouts out. Next up, of course, another legend, Representative John Lewis. We also have Representative Mel Watt. Next up, one of my favorite people. I love watching her duke it out on a TV screen. Next up is Ms. Donna Brazil. Next up, some of y'all might have heard of this gentleman, civil rights leader, activist, and he be on the TV screen. Reverend Al Sharpton. And I want to give a special thank you to Reverend Sharpton because he was able, I want to give a special shout out to Reverend Sharpton because he was able to fill in for us on short notice. When I asked him to come, I told him he's going to be moderating the panel. Normally when he does these panels, he does them with Ben Jealous, he does them with Mark Morial. Those three key civil rights organizations, the National Action Network, the NAACP, and the Urban League, normally do this in conjunction. He didn't know that when he came out. I apologize for that. But we do thank him for being here. And once again, give Reverend Sharpton a round of applause. Now, I said this was going to be a diverse panel. Why y'all laughing? We have some conservatives. We went through the whole CBC and found the black Republicans, both of them. First up, Ms. Crystal Wright.
You should be kind.
And we have Mr. Ron Christie.
One more.
Once again, I want to thank you all for being here. While you all were in the back waiting to come in, one of the things I said to the audience was that to me, this battle over voter IDs, over access to the polls, to me is perhaps the most clear case of racial discrimination that we have in the 21st century. Now that's my premise. You all may disagree, but I wanted to start there. Let me start with you, Ms. Brazil. As Vice Chairwoman of the Democratic National Committee, you've been around this country. You've been particularly in some of the key states where this stuff has happened. What do you see going on?
Well, first of all, it's a great honor to be part of this distinguished panel this morning and to be part of the Congressional Black Caucus Legislative Weekend. Over the last 12 months, we have seen more than 180 restrictive voter ID laws introduced in state legislative halls all throughout the country. Just to let you know the impact that these laws will have, 17 states have passed restrictive voting laws. 17 states that have the potential to impact the 2012 presidential election. These states account for 218 electoral votes, 80% of the electoral votes that are needed in order to win the presidency. Let me just say this. My mama taught me that when you change the rules in the middle of the game, that's called cheating. There's no place in our country, in our democracy, to put onerous burdens before the American people, eligible citizens, to show up at the voting booth this fall, having to produce multiple forms of ID. I'll say this because I know my other distinguished panelists can add to this. In 2000, when I managed Al Gore's campaign, so as you all know, that's the campaign that we won and lost both on the same day. My own sister, who at the time lived in Florida, had to produce not one, not two, but 3 forms of voter ID just to get a provisional ballot. So I've told everybody, not just in my family, but all throughout this country, that regardless of what they tell you, just show up with a voter identification card or show up with your driver's license. I want to urge everyone to show up with pretty much everything that you can produce. Your driver's license, your birth certificate, your voter registration card, anything, and utility. And your utility payments. Because this fall, we will see hurdles that we have not seen since 1965. And this is something that should bother all of us. Dr. Martin Luther King in 1957 gave one of the best sermons, I believe, that he ever gave, and that was, give us the ballot. Give us the ballot so that we can fill the legislative hall with men and women of goodwill. Give us a ballot so that we can fill our judicial benches with men and women who serve with mercy and act justly. Ladies and gentlemen, this fall, unfortunately, we're going to have a hard time in some of these states getting the ballot to eligible citizens so that they can cast their vote for the presidency and other elected positions.
Absolutely. Bring that utility bill. Even if you ain't paid it. It's all right. It could be pink, yellow, it don't matter. Bring the bill.
It's proof.
Reverend Sharpton, no, we understand that the laws are changing, but the question here also is, does it constitute racial discrimination? I keep hearing people say, well, why is this racial? White people have to show ID too. What do you say?
Well, first of all, it's discrimination because in any number of studies, but I'll quote the Pew Group, have talked about the disproportionate impact it has on African Americans and Latinos. 3 things that I think we need to be clear on, because as National Action Network, we've been doing a tour. We've been with Congresswoman Fudge in Ohio. We've done about 11 states on voter ID with the NAACP and the Urban League. One, we are not against identification. You know, they're trying to act like you have to have ID to do anything. We're saying, have the same ID this year that you had when Reagan ran, and Clinton ran, and Bush ran. People need to be clear. We're not talking about we're against ID. We're against the new restrictive voter ID. Because they're trying to sell the public, we just want to open up the polls. That's not what we're doing. we're saying that there's been no fraud. The Justice Department has established there's been 0.0003% case of fraud. So this is a solution looking for a problem, not a problem looking for a solution. That's one. It is a disproportionate impact on us that are black and Latino, on the elderly. Man told me in Orlando, Florida on our tour, he said, Reverend, I'm 85 years old. I live 27 miles from where you have to go get the restrictive state ID. I do